にしてあげるのに。もうちょっと。
Oh, right. I mean, after watching that episode, I don't know how you're not all smiles. And if you are, then you're feeling it. Yo, the king and his right-hand man, they kind of did Elise a little bit dirty this episode because they knew for a fact that they had sent Elise to this other hospital under a alias, and they knew what that alias was. So when Dr. Graham and I forget what the other doctor's name is, but the Dr. Graham and the old dude, when they go there, they're both surprised that Lady Clarence, right? Lady Clarence, yeah. They're surprised that Elise is Rose. And my first thing was like, damn, they did her dirty. Like, yo, they could have given him a heads up of like, hey, by the way, you know, this girl's already been at your hospital. You may have heard of her already. Like, they could have given these dudes like a heads up, but instead, when they get there, they're now kind of felt sideswiped a little bit of like, yo, this is our Lady Rose. This is our genius. And even Dr. Graham was like, oh, Lady Clarence must be as much of a genius as Rose is. And I guess the only one caveat or the only one nitpick is the old guy said that Elise wrote a report on the really quick surgery that she performed on the lady, on the Empress lady, whatever. And I was like, okay, well, you should have been able to decipher the scribble scrabble that you got from Rose. Now, the one, I guess, like, well, maybe, I guess the one kind of like, is that it was the old dude, not Dr. Graham, seeing the scritchy scratch. So that could be the thing. But the old dude was also the one who reviewed the scritchy scratch stuff originally. And he was like, yo, what is this? What is this child's scribble scrabble? So, but hey, I'm gonna let that one go because that's just like, hey, is what it is kind of thing. But I like how they were both really, really surprised and taken aback. Obviously, she's gonna get a lot of renown. They were looking, the king and his right hand man were looking for a reason to like, not reprimand, but kind of hold Rose or hold Elise longer. And they were doing that because they're trying to make her the Empress, right? They're trying to scheme and get in all this stuff. And the king was like, if she pulled off this feat and everything else, like, we're gonna have to give her a Medal of Honor. Like, she saved a person of the royal family. Like, it's point blank. Like, she's the ish. And his right hand man, concocted this scheme of like, finding other doctors and stuff like that. So I was like, that's juicy. And she's fast tracking herself to be, a doctor. So, sorry for the sneezes. As we get closer to, her taking the test and her being acknowledged for this feat that she just did and her getting closer to being the Empress, it's like, I'm thinking, a couple of you guys in the comments were like, well, maybe she can do both. And I'm thinking like, that has to be the case is, you acknowledge her from this sophistication and this intelligence and this, doctor point of view. And at the same time, that person seems like they would be easily accepted as somebody to lead the country. Because they're like, if I could trust her with my literal life, right? Like if I'm dying and I need her to perform surgery, I'll trust her with my life. Like she is that intelligent and she has a proven track record of keeping people alive. Why wouldn't I also trust her with my ethereal life in the country? Like, why wouldn't I then trust her with making also intelligent decisions about, somebody in the Empress level? So it's going to be hard for her to weasel her way out of not being the Empress. I think it's something like, she's going to have to open a hospital that, like, there's going to have to be concessions on both sides from Elise and from, the future Empress stuff, and maybe it's, I don't know. I don't want to assume anything, but she's going to have some stuff. All right. The other thing that's juicy about this episode is the brother stuff, you know, and I think his name's Millie, something like that. But anyways, her best friend in her past life who tragically passed away, and she never figured out exactly why. So she basically has a redo here to not only still get close to him, and you could tell that he immediately felt a big connection with her. He at the end of the episode, he kissed her on the forehead, and he was like, I would treat you so right, baby girl, you know. And he felt the connection with her, and it's immediate. And I think it really is something. Obviously, when she saw him, she cried. But I also think it's something to where it's like, even if, and I don't know, maybe you've ever had this experience, but have you ever met somebody and like you felt like, you know, have we met before? Like, have we known each other before? And you just click. And it doesn't have to be romantic, you know. It just be like, you know, a friend, you know, a bro, you know, a homegirl, you know, like, you know, a bestie, whatever. It could just be like somebody that like you just hit it off. And I've had an experience like this, you know, non-romantic, you know, and there was this, you know, this dude. And the very long story short is I was throwing a party at one of my apartments that I had before me and my wife even met. And during the party, we were being, you know, obviously it was a party, it was a little kickback at the house, but there was a, you know, a good decent amount of folks there, and you know, listening to music and drinking and blah blah blah. It got loud, and this dude showed up, and he ended up being a security guard for that apartment complex, and I don't know why, but like I you know, I immediately reached out to this dude. I was like, hey, you know, what time you off, bro? Like, you know, whatever. He's like, yo, I'm off in like a little bit. It's like, yo, come back. Like, come back and hang out or whatever. And the very long story short of that is we just clicked. And I was like, yo, like, I felt like I'd known this dude I felt like it was reuniting with like a cousin or like, you know, a long lost brother or something. And we just hit it off. And like, he came to that party, and then as he was patrolling, you know, in the future, you know, weeks and coming months, he kept coming back over and over. And now this was 14 years ago, and he's still like one of my two best friends in life. And it's just one of those things to where like sometimes it just happens. So in this case with Elise, it's like you could tell like they had an instant connection. Will that connection be? Will Millie or the brother try and push that connection to a romantic sense? I don't know. But she has a redo to save somebody really important to her and establish a future really important friendship, which I think is really, really, really dope and cool. So I'm loving it. I love this show so much. I think it's so good from a writing perspective. It's just like, it's just pure genius on paper and translated and adapted into an anime. So anyways, thank you guys for joining me this week. I'll see you guys next week for episode number 8. I believe number 8 next week, I think is what we have. Let me just triple check that. Yeah, number 8. I'll see you for Doctor Elise episode 8 next week. Peace.